Welcome back to the Coach Steve Show, where we talk about everything in the sports world, life, everything in the middle. Talk to football coaches, basketball coaches, all the way from high school all the way to Division I. Talk about some Chicago Bears, NFL, college football, anything that I feel deemed worthy to talk about is what we talk about here on the Coach Steve Show. If this is your first time, please hit the like button, subscribe button on YouTube, follow on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it now. And follow on Rumble if you are on there as well. We are live here on YouTube, Rumble, and X. I'm still trying to figure out how to go live on all the other ones. Tonight, we are going to talk about another topic. We talked about one topic that everybody talked about. I kind of waited to see the dust settle a little bit on this next one. And it happened. The event happened this weekend, and people are still talking about it. So let's talk about it. We're going to talk about the Colorado Buffaloes football program because this weekend, at their spring game, the athletic director and company decided to retire Travis Hunter's jersey, and they also decided to retire Shedeur Sanders' jersey, the son of head football coach Deion Sanders. This caused a lot of controversy, so let's talk about the controversy. There are reasons to retire a jersey. Now, I hear people talk about Tim Tebow doesn't have his retired at Florida, and a bunch of other people. But when you do some research, you find out that other schools don't retire jerseys or they wait a while. And that seems to be the norm, right? When somebody gets their jersey retired, it's usually for a couple of reasons. A couple of the reasons are they are a Heisman Trophy winner. They are a national championship winner. They had a profound impact on their program for a while. And you like to think that they had a transformational impact on the entire college football landscape. And if that player, if you were lucky enough that they went to your university, you probably retired their jersey. Now, we see jersey retirements in the NBA. We see some of them in college football, sometimes NFL. And even in college, when they retire jerseys, it's sometimes dependent on what they do when they go on to the NFL as well. When you think of some great NFL football players, their college retires their jerseys later on, and that's been the norm. But when you think about just college, all those reasons I said, those are the typical reasons why you would see a jersey retired. So let's start with one of the people that you can maybe make an argument for in retiring their jersey, and that is Travis Hunter. Okay, Travis Hunter was a Heisman Trophy winner. I don't think he deserved to win the Heisman. I shouldn't say that. I don't know if not deserving. He definitely deserved to have his name put in there. But when you think of a Heisman Trophy winner, it's for a specific position, right? Hey, the quarterback won. You know, Tim Tebow, quarterback, University of Florida, wins the Heisman. Baker Mayfield, quarterback, University of Oklahoma. Though, like when you think about that, right? Reggie Bush, running back, USC. They're specific positions. This is the one time where the committee decided that because Travis Hunter played wide receiver on offense and played safety and corner on defense, that those snaps are a reason why he should win the Heisman. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think if he was going to win the Heisman, it would be, hey, look at his great wide receiver numbers. Hey, look at him at a safety or corner, whatever he played. Let's look at those. But they decided to say, well, we got to look at him as a wide receiver and as a defensive player. Look at all the snaps he took. I don't necessarily agree with that. But the committee decided on it, and he won the Heisman. So we're just going to save face here because he won the Heisman. So for Travis Hunter, he wins the Heisman. He did have an impact on the football program. You don't see it very often where I just talked about him playing both sides of the ball. If you're going to talk about him playing both sides of the ball, that comes down to what has he done for the program. So the Travis Hunter one, you can maybe make an argument for. Now, for Travis Hunter, I would have liked to have seen them wait a few years to see if his impact on the program sustained after he was gone, to look back exactly what they did. I feel like a couple months removed from the season is too soon. You are still living in that moment, per se. There's not a lot of time to think about this. And the athletic director and company kind of pulled the trigger on this and said, we're going to retire his jersey. Which, okay, some people out there say that Travis Hunter deserves it. Okay, you can sort of make that argument. But I want to point out that Travis Hunter's time at Colorado was 13-12. They did not win the conference. They did not win a national championship. So to go 13-12 and to say that your jersey can be retired, and I need you guys to stay with me as I get to this point again later on. But to me, I always bring up Tim Tebow because Tim Tebow was one of my favorite players growing up watching, and probably most of you out there, he's probably one of the top. He would be somebody to have his jersey retired because winning record, his record was unbelievable as a starting quarterback. Won the Heisman, was always in consideration for the Heisman, won a national championship, lost to a very good Alabama team to get back to the national championship when they lost in the SEC. But that's just an example. And those are people that played a program for a while. It's for a few years. And so people like that, I think, really change a program because it's sustained over time and that success. To go 13-12 in 2 years, and maybe this is just the era of college football that we're in, where maybe we don't see the 3-4 year players anymore. So things maybe have to adapt and change. I personally, when someone transcends a program, they were there their freshman year and probably made an impact. Sophomore year, continued to make that same impact. Junior year, continued in. Then their senior year, they decide NFL, college. They stay in college and they stay. What kind of change and everything do they make at that level and for their senior year? So I want you to remember that record, because then, fine, make that argument for Travis Hunter. That one I can, get over. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but you can kind of accept it and understand, right? I think that's where people having conversations like, can we have a conversation about it? Can I understand where you're coming from? Sure. Okay, cool. But then they wanted to retire Shedeur Sanders' jersey as well. Now, Shedeur Sanders, son of Deion Sanders, he's not a bad college quarterback. I'm very curious to see what he would do in the NFL, but he did have good numbers at Colorado. He had good numbers at Jackson State. Not taking those away from him whatsoever, right? You can't. But again, that 13-12 record we talked about with Travis Hunter, same record with Shedeur Sanders. So a quarterback that went 13-12, did not win a national championship, did not win the Heisman, and all these other awards. This Colorado was like, okay, that's good enough. Let's retire his jersey. So this just has a very weird feel to it, right? What's one of the old sayings? It looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, so it must be a duck, right? Well, this smells and looks like Colorado wanting to really please Deion Sanders. Now, before I take another step further, like most people, I respect Deion Sanders. Respect him as a player. One of our, speed work moves, quick prime times, because he is prime time. I respect the work he did in high school. I respect the work he did at Jackson State. What he's trying to do with Colorado and put them on the map, you have to respect it. Doing it the way he wants to do it, doing it within the rules. People can say what they want to. I don't agree with name, image, and likeness, but if the no leadership and the NCAA is going to allow it, you might as well play the game. and he is playing the game. Sorry, drink from my body armor. Not sponsored. Hit me up, though. Hit me up. So it just smells weird, right? And there's two different types of smells that we're getting here. Does Deion have something to do with this? Does he say, like, hey, one of two things. You need to retire these two guys' jerseys, and especially ones because of my son. And not saying he said it in those exact words, but just something like that, right? Something stinks with that. The other thing that stinks with this is maybe that Colorado talked about retiring Travis Hunter's jersey, but Deion said, hey, they were a package deal coming here, retire them at the same time. That's what it smells like. The other smell is, like I said, the athletic director, the whole Colorado University saying Deion could leave, right? Like now Deion has said he's there at Colorado. He's there to turn around. He wants to make it like all the other big time programs, right? But he could leave, right? A university could come along, more resources, different way to recruit there. Maybe depending on, if Shedeur gets drafted, where does he go? Does Deion want to take a job closer to where his son's now going to be? But so they're thinking we have to keep him around. So this will help keep him happy and do this. Those are the smells that I'm getting. I wonder if anybody else is getting those smells. Okay. Now, I can't repeat this enough. I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders is not a good college quarterback. His NFL level is yet to be seen. So I want to make that very clear that I don't think anybody, maybe some, but I think that everybody is saying that, not saying that he's a bad quarterback at all. I just want to read off his stats to show that, he's not really all that bad. In 2 years at Colorado, he had 7,364 passing yards and 64 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. So he made a jump his first year, 3,200 yards to 4,134. So not saying he's bad, numbers wise, right? There was some pocket present stuff. I question him trying to take off and all that stuff. You just look at this and wonder, like, does Travis Hunter can make an argument, but does Shedeur Sanders deserve this? And people are going to say yes, because his completion percentage was a record 71% completion, which is good. But again, a part of me is like, really though, 13-12 record, no national championship, not even a conference championship, not a playoff win. Like, you didn't lead them there. And just the hype that Deion has, like, why is this why? And so Deion went on a rant talking about if his last name wasn't Deion Sanders, that we would not be having this conversation. And I think he's right, because I don't think Shedeur Sanders, and I'm going to say it, I don't think his jersey would be retired at this moment if Deion was not his father. And again, I respect Deion. I would love to have a conversation with him. I'm just telling you the perspective from the outside looking in that I personally have, that he is right. I just don't think Shedeur Sanders' jersey should be retired in this moment. If in a couple years, they feel like, hey, he and Deion really started this train, and Colorado goes on to win 9-10 games a year, they want to look back at it. Okay, he really made an impact on Colorado football. We're going to retire his jersey. If he goes on to the NFL and continues what he's doing now into the NFL, okay, cool. Yeah, let's bring this back into consideration, and we will retire his jersey. And again, I don't have any proof that Deion said anything to retire his jersey. We don't have any. There was a report that this was brought up to Deion. He wasn't really big on it, but the athletic director was going to do it. which I don't know if I believe or not because Deion has some power there. So if he said, no, I'm not comfortable with this, then they wouldn't do it yet. So I don't necessarily know if I believe that. Again, and the reason why you question this, and this has nothing to do with Deion necessarily, but there's other Colorado players that I think deserve to have their jerseys retired that do not have their jerseys retired because um, do you guys realize like in I think it was 1990 they won a national championship, right? Like some of the best years of Colorado football were 80s and 90s. I'm not saying this is a program like the Alabamas and Floridas and these blue bloods, but there was a point in time where Colorado football, this was back when it was the Big 8, that won some games. Chicago Bears fans, our running backs coach Eric Bieniemy was the running back of that team who holds records. Eric Bieniemy as a running back, 3,940 rushing yards. He had 41 rushing touchdowns. He also had 27 receptions for touchdowns. Holds records there. Was part of a national championship team, and his number's not retired. Like, how is that possible? There was a report, and ex-Colorado players, like there's some that are coming out that are against this and wondering like what's going on here. Chad Brown, he was a linebacker. Here's an article. Chad Brown, star linebacker with the Buffaloes in the early 1990s that won a national championship in 1990. He was first team All Big 8 in 1992. He said he was not thrilled with Deion Sanders' decision. He said, while Travis certainly deserves his flowers and deserves to have his number retired, to forget the greatest era in college football at Colorado, which I was a part of, is what he says, when we won a national championship, also feels like a slight. So two things can be true at once. These guys deserve their flowers, but guys in the past also deserve those. So I think part of this, especially when you're looking at former Colorado players and students of college football that are older than me and have been around it more than I have, this could also be argued as a problem with Colorado. And that's why I kept bringing up the words the athletic director's doing this, Colorado's doing this, because they are sliding guys from that national championship team that their jerseys aren't even retired. And they don't retire everybody. So like he said, Brown also explained that there are plenty of other Colorado players who agree with his assessment while being frustrated with the lack of process. If we were a program which handed these things out all the time, I think myself and a lot of the other former alumni would look at this through a very different lens. But considering how incredibly conservative we have been, and now to do it to two guys who are both on campus still, their graduating class hasn't even left campus yet, it feels a bit odd, a bit premature. And to not have some kind of waiting period, to not do any type of procedure, establishment forms with this, it strikes a lot of folks as very, very odd. And that's what I was talking about. It smells weird. It smells and looks weird. Part of it sucks out of nobody's control because the Shedeur Sanders is the son of the head football coach. I know plenty of head coaches that have coached their sons or coached their daughters. They do a very good job of distancing themselves from dad and coach. But he makes a very good point. It just smells weird to where he's talking about blaming Colorado, but also blaming Deion Sanders, who has a lot of power at Colorado and has a lot of say in things. So he could put his foot down. Another part of this article says, it seems like a near certainty that this would never have happened if not for Shedeur's last name. Hunter at least won the Heisman Trophy, an accomplishment that almost universally leads to having your number retired. For example, Caleb Williams won the Heisman at USC and didn't have his number retired until he left for the NFL. Colorado could have done something similar. And this article says, and we all pretty much want to know why. And that's a part of it. Like I said, if 2 years had gone by, 3 years had gone by, and they decided to do it, maybe we'd be having a similar conversation about why they were 13 and 12, but at least it wouldn't be as weird, right? And I think that's and a good point brought up in this article was they're not even in they haven't gone to the NFL yet. They haven't graduated college yet. The kids are going to school with quote unquote, 'cause I don't know if Shedeur and them go to class. I think they do online classes. They're not even graduated yet. So it just again, when it smells like a duck, quacks like a duck, looks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Same thing. It smells weird, looks weird. It's weird. It's a very weird thing. Um, David Pollock, uh, an article written. David Pollock slams Colorado for retiring Shedeur Sanders. Um, during his 2 seasons there, 6,963 yards, 70 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. While he was at Jackson State, and then he does another 7,000. So again, not saying he's not good. Not saying he's not good. He was named Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. Cool. Here is what David Pollock said. I don't understand this at all. I'm going to throw some names out to you. Joe Burrow, not retired. Tim Tebow's not retired. Cam Newton's not retired. Jameis Winston's not retired. Marcus Mariota's jersey, not retired. He says, I can go on and on about players not having their jerseys retired. Shedeur is 13 and 12 at Colorado. Like, that's his record. He wasn't an All-American in any year. I don't get it. So, to add layer to that, not a Heisman Trophy winner, has a 13 and 12 record at Colorado as a starting quarterback. And if they're going to bring in his Jackson State numbers into this, that's totally wrong because that has nothing to do with your school. And then he's not even an All-American. So why, again, we can have a conversation about Travis Hunter, but why Shedeur Sanders? Is it because his last name's Sanders? I think so. But kind of, and continuing in this article, Pollock emphasized that he has a lot of respect for Deion and what he represents. So his disagreement with the decision isn't rooted in any animosity towards the coach. He believes that no other player in the country has had their jersey retired in a similar situation. While Pollock acknowledged that Sanders was a talented player, he does not believe he will make the College Football Hall of Fame. So that's another point. However, he mentioned that he could be pursued to retire Travis Hunter's jersey. Pollock thinks that Buffalo's wanted to honor both players since they achieved success together, but he doesn't feel that Sanders deserves that level of recognition. He suggests that Colorado could follow LSU's approach of honoring players by wearing a specific number, making Sanders number 2 or Hunter's number 12 special in that manner. That's something else they could have done, where if you wear number 2, you're thinking of Shedeur Sanders, look what he did. But again, there's even others. There was other players on that national championship team that don't have it retired. Other times in the 80s where they were good before they won that, never retired. And there's other articles out there about people that are not happy with this, and they're former Colorado players. And so now you, as Colorado and athletic department and Deion, you have now pissed off alumni that are all about this program, and this move has pissed them off. And if I were you, I would not want to piss off football alumni because they help set the foundation of what you're trying, of where you are. And I know the program has been down, especially before Deion got there. I cannot stress that enough. They won one game. Deion comes in and wins like 3 or 4, and then they win 9. So I understand he really got that thing around compared to what they were. And maybe that's maybe where the thought process was of, look, we won one game, they come in and win 3 or 4, then win 9. Look what they were doing. But to me, having your jersey retired at a university is a huge honor, and that your jersey now may never be worn because you were that polarizing while also being that successful on the field, that led to the program winning the conference, you probably being a Heisman Trophy, you winning other awards, getting the program to a huge time bowl game, but now the college football era, did you get to the college football playoffs? Did you win a college football playoff game? Those type of things. Now, Pollock's argument is talking about players in other programs. Every program does something different when it comes to retiring jerseys. So that argument, I think, is just more about look at all these other quarterbacks that are in college better than Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion, and they don't have their jersey retired. That's not an NCAA thing, so they can't control it. It's a team thing. Each team does it differently. And like I said in the one article, if Colorado has a bunch of jerseys retired, this is just something they did. They probably wouldn't have thought twice about it, especially for Travis Hunter. Because you notice we're not arguing a lot about Travis Hunter. Like there's an argument to be had. I just don't think that they both deserve that. I'll say it right now. In this moment, neither one of them deserve to have their jersey retired right now. In a couple years, you want to retire Travis Hunter's jersey? Cool. Shedeur, I don't think ever should have had his jersey retired. He's not Tim Tebow. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not the college Jameis Winston. Like, those type of dudes were dudes. And they played in the SEC against some dudes, especially back in those times. So Deion, I think, misstepped this because even if the athletic director said this is what he wants to do, he could have stopped it. Because I don't think we would have talked about. I don't know. I think people still would have said, even if it was 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and they said, and he was still the head coach of Colorado, and they decide to retire his son's jersey, they would say, "Oh, they're only doing it because he's the dad." But more positive argument would have been, it's been a couple years, guys. Like, just let it. We have to accept it in a way, and we can have the argument of should it not. But it would make more sense for it to be a couple years from now. So Shedeur, I'm sorry, I don't think your jersey should be retired at all. Not saying you're not good, but you're not like those other dudes. Travis Hunter, it's hard for me because I don't even think he should have won the Heisman Trophy at all because of them combining his defensive and offensive stats. To me, it needs to be a specific position because could he take breaks off of one of them and they still able to move the ball? Whole other argument, a whole other talk. It's done. He already has a Heisman. There's really nothing more. But he's the one that, maybe sooner than Shedeur, you can make an argument. But Shedeur, I'm sorry. Deion, I respect you. I'm excited to see if Colorado now is a part of the conversation of winning the conference and everything else. I don't really like a lot of things that, a lot of it is flash and this and that, he does bring attention, but still it's cool. It's cool to see that it's, sold out and stuff like that. But if they don't continue to win games, how long does that last? And that's what I'm curious to see, like, um, like a Nick Saban and stuff where they constantly win, constantly bring people in. But yeah, what do you guys think? Leave comments below. Should either of them have their jerseys retired? Should Shedeur have had his retired at all? I'm very curious to see what you guys say. So leave a comment in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe to YouTube channel. Follow on X, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. Check out all the other videos. Great talks with a lot of great people. Check all that out. Thank you guys for watching and or listening. Again, please let me know what you guys think. And the question will be, should Shedeur Sanders has his jersey retired? Should Travis Hunter have his jersey retired? Does this smell weird to anybody else? So thank you guys for watching and or listening. This is Coach Steve. We will see you guys next